She crumpled up paper at her desk, where she almost never moved from, and she threw it at people. I'm not going to throw this at you though, because I feel like God is always watching, and that's possible. I'm just not in a position to be tempting fate right now, as it were. So I want to go ahead and move forward. For Christmas, I'm buying you 2 generators. Because every time you and I speak, the only thing you do is ask me for 2 generators, and I just feel like I'm being remiss to get you everything. The first thing we need to talk about before we can do anything else is the fact that this is our last scheduled meeting, and we need more. So, with that in mind, let's all whip out our calendars, shall we? This is a calendar. We have some proposed dates, and I would like to tell you what they are, but Satna's better at that, so Satna's going to.
Okay, so like Noel had shared at the last community input meeting, we're looking at possibly adding 2 more planning meetings after this one. And since every planning meeting is followed by community input meeting, we're looking at 3 more community input meetings. So 1 to follow the one today, and then 2 to follow the 2 additional ones. And just as before, we're going to try to schedule it every alternate week, except for the first one, which since we haven't had the time to circulate information about the community input meeting, we're going to do 3 weeks out. So we're looking at the week June 2nd to 6th, and we're looking at Thursday as a potential option, so June 5th as a potential day for a planning meeting, which is Thursday, and then 2 weeks later, June 19th. And if people have their calendars right now and can flag issues with those dates right now, we can, June 5th and June 19th for the planning meetings.
Can you make June 5th?
Yes.
Anybody cannot make June 5th? Cannot be here. Okay, June 5th, cement. That's done. What's the other one?
June 19th.
June 19th. That's a great date. You know what the best part about June 19th is? We can all make it.
I can't be here June 5th. That's the day of Kickoff Festival.
Oh, that's
That's
What kickoff festival?
the Red Festival.
Well, that doesn't work at all.
The youth portion.
It's the youth portion of the Red Hook Festival, which is outside barbecuing. How many people are going to be? This is not community input. This is a planning meeting.
This is a planning meeting.
Planning meeting, not a community input.
Correct.
So how many people are going to be absent and attending the barbecue?
What can we do the day before? Doesn't have to be a Thursday, it can be a Wednesday. Can we do it the day before? If we did it the day before, does that block up everybody's calendars having so much?
June 4th, everyone?
June 4th? Is that a Wednesday? Am I making that up? It is a Wednesday. Okay, if the Mickey is not available, we can do it in another space.
Yeah.
Push comes to shove, we can do it in my space.
We're going to do it in my space.
We got lots of space. I'm not worried about that. Ideally, the Mickey is the answer.
Yeah.
If not, I don't want to jack our calendars around the space. Good, so those are our 2 dates. Everybody's on board with those?
4th to the 19th then?
What did we say?
June 4th and June 19th.
Yes.
Well, 5th is the barbecue, so
The youth barbecue. We're just doing it to screw with you, Wally. How's that going?
No problem.
Good?
I'm used to that. That's why I live in Redmond.
You are in the right place, my friend. You look really good in orange, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
That's a great color on you. I appreciate it when Wally dresses up for me. I like to acknowledge it. What are the other meetings?
so we'll have
You can pretend otherwise.
community input meetings, and again, these are just assuming that they're Thursday. Again, we have to look at the space. But the community input meetings would be May 29th to follow this one meeting.
No, it's Labor Day weekend.
But it's
It's Labor Day.
but it's Friday, right? Thursday. It's Thursday before Labor Day.
No, it's actually
It's
Thursday after.
Memorial Day, not Labor Day.
It's Thursday before. It's Thursday after. That's right. That's not a holiday weekend.
Yeah,
That's Thursday after.
Memorial Day is
I
28th.
can't make on.
You can't? Who else cannot? You can? You can, nobody can.
How
Okay,
about 28th?
can we do it the Wednesday? If we did it on the Wednesday, the 28th? It's like a crapshoot. I feel like I'm gambling. It's like a Wednesday.
That whole week I was having the community.
The 28th? No, that would just blow us for you.
But now we're talking about community meetings. So
There's
we
only
don't-
me, so.
And it's just the community input. Yeah, this is community. This isn't planning. This is the community input.
So if we do our work to get people there, then
Yeah. So super clear, if you were at the last community input meeting, you know, I'm starting to call you guys up to speak to the components that we are planning in this group, so that they have an understanding of who's coming up with this stuff and where it's going. That will become more and more present in the community input meetings. So the more, the merrier. I don't want you to think that just because it's a community input meeting, presence is not required, because we need your support. I don't want to have to make Rob speak for everybody like I did last week. That was super great, by the way, you handled that really well. Between Rob and Jessica, I think you covered every function, except for medical, because that was the All right, so those are our meetings. Are we scheduled then?
Community input meeting.
Do it on those days.
28th is usually the red.
Oh, I can't compete with John. Yeah.
How about Tuesday, May 27th?
There's a community meeting at the library.
Right, don't want to compete with that either.
May 30th, Friday?
I can't do
Friday
Friday.
evening is
Worse than the 29th.
I won't be here on the
So
30th.
should we just do the 29th?
5:30.
May 29th?
If the 29th works for a majority of the people here for a community input meeting, and for the people who can't make it, I understand, and for the rest of you, it would be really imperative that the rest of you were here, because I know there's a lot that can't. Does that work?
May 29th?
May 29th for the community input.
We've got EMT retreat on the 3rd. We're testing products and I've got people running out.
And then following that, around the June 12th and June 26th for the community input meetings.
June 12, June 26, those are community input meetings.
12?
June 12, June 26.
And
I
if
can
you,
do the,
June 26 is my dad's birthday.
if you see any conflicts with other
Yeah, Thursday.
meetings in the community,
No good?
please let me know.
Okay. I'm interested if you guys can make it, but also interested if you know if there are competing events.
Usually on Wednesdays, I don't.
Everybody should be on summer kids.
Yeah, I'm thinking that too.
July.
Well, July is a different set of meetings.
No,
so-
that's the summer
the
schedule.
12th, the 19th, and the 26th, like every Thursday.
Regents exams start
No,
the
I-
second week of
June
June.
12th.
For high schools, and I feel like that's gonna be time consuming. I don't want to be
My
summer
sister's
or
doing
take
it on
good shepherd
Wednesdays.
services.
And graduation.
Yeah, graduation.
So Thursday should be the high school.
So graduation and regents, June, so we really need to check with Good Shepherd and see if the high school is even available to us. So if you guys can hold on to those dates for now, and let's just call that the calendar, but know that it may change. It's not, we've had to add meetings, and that's what happens. I want to make sure that we get this done effectively, and don't want to waste people's time, and if we end up with something that is useless or incomplete, then we've all spent a lot of time doing nothing. Except getting to know each other, which is also super fun. So I just want to recap where we're at, what we're doing. We had a really good community input meeting the other day. For those of you who weren't there, it was a lot of fun when it was more interactive. We still are struggling to get actual input, but it was, we did in the community input meeting what we did here when we built a timeline. Where's the timeline? I put it on a board rather than a paper because I knew we would be using it and asked people to put their event, their moment from Hurricane Sandy, and we produced this, which actually didn't look like this at the end of the meeting, but this is what it looks like after being in my bag for a week. So we got a lot of great information from people, and we took this community input and created a list of support functions that people either expected and didn't see, or expected and did see, or didn't expect and either saw or did not see. And so that's what generated this, and how they came up with this. Matt's already got how it goes. You don't have to raise your hand, dude. Just
In all the suggestions,
yes.
what's any movement on the suggestion box situation?
Projects. Project updates would have to come from the coalition. So I would turn to Tony, Ian, and Tony and Saba, because Ian just got back into town, to ask them about the different projects that are ongoing. But I do know that Reg is putting together, or somewhere has put together, speak out of turn, so you can just tell me when I'm wrong, the board presentation of the different projects. I waited until he put food in his mouth, and now it's just a crapshoot to see if you can swallow a lot all at once. Sure. Go.
I can
Show it, show it, show it.
That's a prince. I'm just gonna go.
Yeah, I'll take it. We had initially thought of illustrating all the projects in a series of boards, but we've since then had further conversations, and we're trying to figure out where the efforts of the illustration should go to explain the entire LGCR process. I think we're still in the, we don't want to jump into getting very finished looking products to explain the projects because we're still in the middle of the process. So we're figuring out the best way to communicate that information and figure out what that graphic piece will be. However, even when we were thinking of it as boards, we were thinking about it happening later in the, not ready by today. But the suggestion boxes is almost something that if you're looking for suggestions on the LGCR process as it's going right now, it's sort of a project
I think
that's
he's
on
looking
a
for
fast
suggestions
track.
on the process. I think he's looking for suggested projects for recovery.
I'm looking for a mechanism by which the community can more consistently and freely make suggestions on anything, either an entire project or details about projects that have already started, outside of infrequent community meetings, at which only a very small percentage of the community can show up. And so the cheapest, lowest tech, easiest way to do this is to have 15 shoe boxes spread around Red Hook, houses, Van Brunt, etc., where people can access it and just drop off their ideas. It may or may not be used at all. I remember Ryan was telling me that sometimes these are pretty sparsely used, but at least make a good faith effort to give people that option. I think it's important.
There's a thing that's being made, at the moment it's called the Red Hook Hub. It's going to sort of, the prototype, or depending on how far they get in the building of it, we get the building of it, will be sort of, there'll be a booth at the Red Hook Fest on June 7th. And the idea behind the Red Hook Hub is that it's super easy to input information and then to get it back too. So it'll be online, there'll be bulletin boards. It's generally focused around information events, but it could be anything. It could be that kind of an idea that goes to a certain
This is digital.
Yeah, so it's online, and you can input it online. You can tweet a thing, and it'll get to the online area. There's a form that you can fill out and turn into a box, and that gets put online.
Oh, okay, so there's a way.
There's a high-tech and a low-tech solution.
Yeah, the only thing that's missing from the next to your question is there's no generally the format is what's your event, what's your news, not leave a comment. So but we ought to think about making, especially as it relates to this, but anytime a comment area or something like that.
So part of the reason we're all here is as connectors, and the reason that the workshops at the Red Hook Fest last year worked is because they were staffed, right? So there were people there for 2 hours at a time that had a survey that said, we would like you to do this. These are the positive impacts that that's going to have. And my suggestion is that if we want to do boxes, the good faith effort is in us getting the bodies to staff the boxes at local churches, local community meetings. It's not the creation of the box or the template, it's the human interaction that says, I care about you, you should care about me, this is the piece of paper that is going to be the vehicle for caring right now. And so let's answer things. So I think the boxes are a great idea. The way they've functioned in the past as unstaffed has been relatively unsuccessful, and the way that they have functioned best has been when they are staffed, which means it's actually a resource-intensive thing. It's just a different kind of resources. It's our human resources. But we went to IKEA, dressed them up in 4 hours the last time we did it. I mean, we can make that happen. It's can we get people, in my opinion, can we get people to say, I will make an announcement at visitation at the end of services. I will be at Calvary at the end of services downstairs during coffee hour and say to people, this is what I believe is super important right now, is I need your input for this process. Can we get people at the basketball court to do? That's where those things will get filled out in the experience.
Is it just a simple piece of paper or a suggestion?
A piece of paper, and I really think it's a suggestion box.
We could put it as support.
So what if there there were
I mean, we
boxes for people to take them.
Yeah.
If you guys.
But then you would need to staff it. What
Yeah.
I mean, I think is saying is that having the boxes is not
I
the
have
issue,
it in my-
it's who's gonna manage the
In our
box.
housing resource center, they're
But I-
all Red Hook residents, they're all.
I guess what I'm saying is that in the past, we had 18 boxes around for 2 different events that had almost no response. And they were all around and all sorts of, but when we had people who were there, who said,
You need people.
if you can staff.
Or maybe among the religious community, there's some connections at different churches. Maybe Javon can hang out with one of the
At
volunteers. We can put some in some of the small businesses. you know,
Why can't you put them in the schools?
Put them in, perfect, yeah.
You know what I mean? Ask the principal, if you want us to call for you, if the box can go in the front.
Finding a location is the problem, it's the management piece, who's managing the box and what are telling people and do they understand what they're asking for, any suggestions?
Like, are they there for lunch for 2
There's,
hours asking people, youth to sign in?
Oh, Miss Madison?
Yes, she's on
Said
the
she
planning
couldn't
card, she couldn't come today, I didn't get a message from her.
But we, you know, you have
Because
a,
she's, yeah,
you have a combination of principals in the neighborhood.
I do, except she is on this planning.
Right, I know.
So she would be a great jumping off point.
Mhm.
And Merrick is on this planning group as well, and could also be a good champion for that, if that's something we're able to take on. I'm not, I think having more input, any way we can come up with, especially within this planning group, to get more input, that would be very exciting. We're having community input meetings, and they look very successful because we have anywhere from 60 to 85 people at the meeting, and people are involved and they're asking questions and they're talking. But most of the people coming are the same people, and there's not a lot of input happening. We have a good contingent from Good Shepherd Services, which I truly appreciate, and their input is valuable, but it's one lens. You know what I'm saying? So any way we can come up with to get more input from the community, the greater community, and the varied lens that comes with the greater community of Red Hook, that's the answer. So I'm a huge fan of doing that. I don't know what needs to happen to coordinate that. Even if we got 12 responses and 18 boxes, I feel like those are 12 responses that are maybe would happen. Maybe 8 of the 12, because you know somebody's going to put something in the box you don't want to do. Yes?
Would George at the Red Hook Star Review be
I'm sure
willing to
George
give
would
a
more
little,
than happy to take suggestions.
be willing to, you know, give a little free space, announcing that there'll be boxes around the neighborhood? You know, 'cause that's,
I can ask him.
That's a great idea.
I can ask him. Me and George are BFFs, so I can certainly reach out and ask him. Any other questions about the other projects? Okay. So I feel like a question for Victoria today. I just want to make sure. We need to move forward. We have a lot to cover, and I want to get through this stuff and be timely. But I also want to make sure that we're addressing things as we move forward. The next step for the projects, before we get back into our timeline and stuff, the next step for the project, Sister Rosette. I'm just gonna hold on to this piece of paper, just in case. The next step for the projects is to have the people who are champions for those projects come to a community input meeting and report out where they are, what they are, how they're gonna move forward. But that's a big undertaking. And that is one of these additional community input meetings, that will be the format for it. Probably later in the process. The long-term community recovery plan does not live or die on how these projects come and go. Think of it as a clearinghouse. The list of projects that we came up with, the list of projects we put to the community, the additional projects we got input from the community since then, and we have got a few. And that is online on the Red Hook page on the EMMP site. And there's a dynamic list there, and it is up to date currently. Those projects are independent pieces of a whole. Think of it as a clearinghouse. That's one section of a plan. In this section, in that chapter of the plan, it says, we have a list of projects we as a community feel are important for our community to fully recover, and they look like this. And if you want to know anything about these projects, these are the people you want to call to find out. And it's really just that simple. And some of the projects are going to go all the way through to fruition, and some of the projects are not. And some of them are going to be very successful, and some of the projects are not. But that is the list that this community has put together of recovery projects that they feel are important and indicative of their full recovery. But it's not going to make or break the plan. The greater plan includes a chapter on the projects, but it also includes a contact list of all the planning people. It will have key components for readiness, roles, which we've talked about at length and we're going to talk about tonight. That's where we're picking up. It will have responsibles, right? Who's responsible? Who's a responsible person? I'm not. Just want to be clear about that moving forward. And the action plan for when we activate a readiness. We're going to talk tonight in terms of tomorrow, in fact. For those of you who don't know, tomorrow is a flood warning day for Redmond. Do you guys know that?
Yes.
FYI, it's a flood warning day for Redmond tomorrow. Your flood alert is in watch right now through till tomorrow morning, and then tomorrow morning, I think at 8 a.m., it switches from a watch to a warning, and at high tide, you guys are expected to surge. So that's National Weather Service. You're welcome. Yes, but we're going to talk in terms of how we're going to respond to how we know that right now. How can we communicate that to the whole neighborhood? And that's what we're going to talk about tonight in terms of responsibilities. Who's doing what? How can we get that out? There's a lot of avenues for us to do that, and I think we have a really good example here to try and exercise that forward. So that's the other section of the plan, the readiness section. And then the next chapter, the last chapter more or less, is the plan for the plan. It's the maintenance plan. Who's responsible for updating the plan? Who's facilitating a meeting once a year to make sure the plan still makes sense and that the people who are listed on the program team are still the people and they still live here and they still care. So that's the four sections of the plan. It's the summary of everything we've done to get here. It's the project list. It's the readiness plan, which we're developing right now. And it's the plan for the plan, the maintenance plan. Okay? Are we up here? Awesome. Very cool. So our goal for readiness is actual preparedness. We don't want to do anything that's not real. We could make things up. I don't need you guys to come in here in the evenings and waste your time to do that. I could make things up by myself. So we want to do things that are real. And our goal for today's meeting is to formalize our community response. It's the same as the last meeting we had. We're picking up where we left off. When last we met, I'm just going to recap it, and then I'm going to ask you guys to do something fun. You guys were looking at the emergency support function. Something very interesting happened, and I can only thank Reg for this, and I wish he was here, but he's next door practicing to be real good. We looked at, as a group, the FEMA emergency support functions. Remember that big, long, silly government list we looked at? We looked at the emergency support functions, and we decided what functions made sense for us, and how can we group them, and then what becomes the Red Hook response functions, right? The Red Hook support functions. And this is what you guys came up with. You came up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 functions, and this is what they encompass. And I took this to the fancy community input meeting, and I didn't show it to anybody. I covered it up. And I think actually a lot of you were there. And I gave them the timeline, and I asked them to walk through the calendar and what was important, and we came up with this beautiful timeline of their own events and what was important to them and what was there and what wasn't there. And then based on this experience that they were all sharing in a moment, I asked them, what were the support functions that you wanted to see? What were you expecting? What weren't you expecting? And based on that, they came up with this without looking at the FEMA support functions. I didn't even mention them. And without looking at what you guys have done already, they came up with this list. And I'm not going to read it to you. It's 24 items, but it is actually pretty inclusive of everything that's over here. You've got, I feel like there's some far apart. It seemed like a good idea to make sure at the time. I don't know what it was. So it seemed like this was a really good starting point for us that we wanted to take to the group. And after talking to the group, I feel like we've done a pretty good job of putting support functions together. Yeah.
Can we need a couple of them?
No.
And match them up, please?
All right. Only for you.
I'll make our work.
So I'll just jump off. I'm going to come over here. So over here we came up with here in the group health and medical, utilities, public safety, communication and coordination, logistics management, food and shelter. So the things that they came up with over here include components, what I would call components of these larger functions. Communication, that was everybody's first thing. Power, nobody had power, right? Medical issues, they also mentioned mental health down here. There was a lot about checking on neighbors, search and rescue, welfare checks. There was also hazardous materials cleanup, which is something that we talked about here kind of in general, but we didn't really find a home for our hazmat on here, and I feel like it's probably a public safety piece is where we had it kind of looming, but we didn't marry it. But they were concerned with the hazardous materials cleanup in the group, and I feel like that's appropriate. Volunteer coordination, child and animal care. Animal care was something else we hadn't really talked about here. So those are kind of the things that jumped out. And then the usual, the toilet, showers, kind of logistics pieces, finance, insurance, and legal support would have been really helpful. But basically, the list here can all be matched up with something here. And I think that these are really good support functions, and I really feel that these are the support functions we should be moving forward with this caveat. They're modular. When you're having an event, and it might not be a hurricane, it might be tomorrow's surge, right? I hope it's not a good event. I don't want to hype.
So why do you have your boots on tonight?
Because it starts before I get home. Maybe.
You're
That's
ready,
right.
exactly.
You're going to have things going on in these different areas that you're not expecting. And you're not going to be covered for something that you shouldn't expect. Somebody will come in with a pack of dogs and be like, we're going to kennel these 6 dogs. And people are going to be like, oh. Same thing the city does. Because how do you kennel dogs? Nobody knows. This is something we've yet to figure out. But you can figure it out. Because you have a structure in place to figure it out. Because you have somebody managing logistics and he doesn't have kennels. But he does have a room upstairs that nobody's using, and maybe we can just put the dogs in there, put some food and some water, and maybe somebody can sit with them. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm not sitting with them for the night either, Wally. I'm just But my point is that once you have this structure in place, and people who are champions of these pieces, and there's a plan in place, which we're going to talk about next, for when that gets started and where that gets put, then it's easier to manage things like, what do I do with 6 pools, right? I can't imagine somebody walking around with 6 pools. I'm sorry, I just had a moment. So this is where we've left it. So I would like to, moving forward, work in terms of this set of stuff as our support pieces, okay? These are our support functions. If you were FEMA, Wally would be head of logistics management. He'd be the assistant deputy commissioner to the assistant deputy commissioner of logistics management. Most commissioners have about 12 assistants. So that's how that would work, right? So tonight, we're going to set ourselves up in 2 groups, and I'm going to clean up my mess here. So pick a table, one or the other, and we need to come up with a couple different things, and I'm interested to see how this goes. It's a bit of a science experiment for me, and mildly for entertainment because I've had a very long day. And I want one group, I'm not going to tell you which one until you find a table. Everybody find a table. We're here.
How many people at a table?
Speaking to the algorithm. Speaking to the algorithm. No, you stay. You guys are fine. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the algorithm. Yeah. And I'm going to ask you guys. Suddenly I'm on the stage.
It's a lot of moving.
To think about 2 things. We're going to be thinking about this group. I want you to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hubs. Don't think about when. Don't think about who. I want you to think about Red Hook. And I want you to think about where. Okay? And I want you to get it down on paper. A location. I want to say 2 or 3 locations for each function. Here's your giant thing. You're welcome. You're welcome. It's hot and humid, but you guys can be mildly enthusiastic. I would be someone has, can I have that black one? Yeah. Thanks. And you guys over here are going to think about the same 6 functions. You're over here. And you are going to think about Noel's bad penmanship. When? idea of when, and let's see how it jives with the where, because I think that'll be. And I'm gonna give you guys about 15 minutes to hash
We're
that
thinking
out.
about it.
He's planning it.
No, but we know there's gonna be a search tomorrow, so that's not. We're talking about something that we don't expect.
Think about something like a hurricane Sandy. Think about it, if that helps, think about it in terms of hurricane Sandy.
Right, like if it's August, well, we think in them terms between August and whatever, so it should be.
Hey, when you can't really see the calendar anymore, like, it's helpful.
timeline often within this matter, it's gonna be quite a few days.
Okay, can you write the title of
72 hours. Okay, so
Can you write that?
here's your calendar, right? You with me? There's your week. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. There's your calendar. Your calendar pages. Okay, if the event happens here, and you have 72 hours, you're gonna be on your own.
Maybe the like.
Think about the win.
When that would happen.
I'm gonna break it down in groups of 6 hours, I'm not kidding. And I think that that's not such a hard question, you guys are probably overthinking it. If you wrote down each one of these functions, it will make sense first. Which one comes first? What's gonna be most important most quickly? And what you're gonna need to have established. And if nobody's here by this 72-hour point, which is so a possibility down here, you might wanna think that
Deal as a
forward.
command center, so you
So
don't
it's a very small question.
So I think first doesn't have to be to let people know. Right, so.
You could have hundreds of people walking into your door wanting to get answers.
That's the one I
At the
would.
same,
But first,
so
I
yes,
would
in
personally
terms
just
of all,
They also wait on you.
I'm just saying.
So can I everybody mind the
No,
Okay,
communication,
so what
I
are some of
guess.
the places that would be good locations for that?
How many hours,
676.
Now, within the first 6 hours, and if it becomes 6 hours.
That was
yeah.
definitely within the.
Yes, 27. Which is.
Nobody knows that.
Day one, day two, day three.
She's saying to put it in
Or
6
now.
hour slots.
It had
Oh,
power,
6 hour slots.
That would be.
So that's for utilities, and multiple things for
That
that.
should be.
What about, if that's
Depends.
So 6 hours, can we do that's what, 12 items? Okay, so
Okay.
let's say we have 3 days before. This is day 3 of 2, and one
You wanna
is
make
6 hour slots.
You can walk across the summit first, so you're right there.
6 hours, we hear about something.
Complaining about what-
Communication. So what does that mean?
This isn't a crisis situation though.
Basically, I guess,
Yeah.
reaching out to whoever we need to reach out to.
And if that's the place to go, you're gonna, and you have a problem, you're gonna figure out how to get.
Leading up,
I
right?
would just suggest that if we
We're doing
agree
leading
to
up.
ordinance-
No, this is the
Something
first
happening.
6 hours.
Okay, well, we need 3 suggestions.
72 hours before and then 72 hours after. All questions you should be asking each other.
Okay, so I was thinking, sorry, 72 hours before.
I would say, you're before, so right now, we could send communications right now to the whole nation and let them know that we're about to have a start. Maybe communication happens first in the, if you have the luxury of a before.
Okay, so should that
How about the firehouse?
So if this is the storm day, we might not be before.
Well, we don't know that.
Like, if it's a hurricane, we'll know it, it's 3 days before.
Not the official firehouse.
The official,
Hole in the
So
museum.
like if
no, the official firehouse, like.
Don't you think we
going up
can
on
get in
Lake
there with?
So that should be the
Why was
first.
So this is day 3 out, day 2.
They have said they don't want to be part of
They
this
agree to be-
conversation.
Yeah.
They want to do
First
their.
24 hours
That
of
makes
day
sense.
3,
Let me
2,
go
1, and the storm's coming this city.
Just got a job and it's going.
I said, maybe at any given time, I'm quite sure the restaurant holiday inn and the.
I mean, maybe we should read about
Do motel, maybe the holiday inn,
Because of why?
for safety, I mean, because, their home damage.
So what we've said is public health and safety is food and security issues, not shelter necessarily. Food and shelter is
So
a
we're
thing.
saying, you know, 3 days ahead.
Right, but, I mean, like, there might be degrees with the things we do know that was storm, like,
Definitely
apparently we're gonna be on flood warning tomorrow, so we'll be going to check our supplies today.
at the time.
I would.
So I don't do.
I would.
Why don't we come back to public safety then if we're having
are we having a break? You can move on to communication. I'm gonna say IKEA.
So whatever they're doing with meetings.
Communication and coordination, I think IKEA would be one of them.
676 was the place that we had the most large scale meetings.
So if we do have,
In terms of meeting with the people, right?
no, well, do you want us to get really specific
Yeah.
in terms of what?
Largest scale public space
Yeah,
meeting
you know what,
during
it's
the
just
last.
about win. Okay.
They have Wi-Fi.
Usually they go to communication the other than last time. I think we could maybe have one more to communication, like if you're gonna have like four corners maybe of like
How about with one of the other churches, like Calvary Baptist Church or
Maybe New Brown?
New Brown further up?
Alright, so
New Brown.
I would say as we get closer, health and
By the
benefits
postal.
to,
What denomination?
communication fails.
Part of the community.
Yeah, I mean.
Logistics.
South Brooklyn High School also had power, has a gymnasium, big gathering space, and they were open and up and running.
So what, do we want to say that for the logistics for food and shelter then?
So maybe like the
We still
communications
are running out of
should be active
location.
this
We know we
whole
need to-
time. And
So
then
what
by
was
the
this
day
about?
before, they should
I was
communicate.
thinking about that as communications, it's in the back, I was
to make sure, okay, based on.
like 351, which is a great space, but
Before the
it's
event.
Right, but it was a really good communication hub and we had power and we
If he
didn't
needs
flood.
back, then we will based on.
and which all makes sense. And the high school is 90 times larger and didn't flood in that power well.
But you don't need to have people inside for communication. Like, it's not where like a bunch of people are going to, like, it's like where the people that are running the program are going.
They're getting ready to
They're different
take
functions,
transfer
that's why
down,
we
they
put
get ready to
676
shut off the
there, because it
elevators
was
at night,
the
shut it, get ready. And I'm on the bus, going home. I'm thinking,
Is there another suggestion that you want me to add to communication?
even if the storm
Once
wasn't
we speak to,
predicted that,
we get to your, we had
No, it's hard when
these
they
humongous speakers.
the
that's,
time they gave us to get out was just, that's why a lot of people say, I'm telling you.
They reach as far as.
Because I turned on the phone and I had like 70 messages.
So
So they gave the mandatory
It's
evacuation
loud over there by Hamilton Avenue, I remember how loud it was.
and shut down transportation.
Broadcast over the speakers.
Yeah, but the thing is, that happened at like 1 o'clock in the daytime or 2. And then they shut down. I was on my
They gave
way.
mandatory while people were at work and then shut the subway down that evening.
Right.
So, yeah.
So I'm thinking to do way ahead of that. Even
So
if
what
the
are
storm
some
is
other
not as
suggestions
bad,
for any
still
of
the same
like
thing that you would
direct
just
communication
vacation.
or
Because I just was,
That's really.
Oh, wait, like to
Shelter, any
check-ins
location?
or
everything, everything, because you don't know. There's no way of predicting, they can tell us it's gonna be a
Community high school.
whatever storm.
So.
But that type of evacuation that they did, that was,
I think like in terms of, I think you're both definitely right. And the one thing I'd say about at least from the health and medical side, if all these people, let's say communications and logistics is getting stuff fired up earlier,
I'm gonna go back to RHI.
we wouldn't, for example, start doing welfare check-in or realistically, we would just have been in communication with all these people to say, okay, this is what it might look like. The moment that it happens, then we're ready to go. So, yeah. I think that
Also,
is-
logistics?
Like these people activate first and then they'll engage in the hour, everyone else has been.
Start health and
They didn't, but they used their space.
Or just that everyone's been talking. That everyone kind of walks
Yeah.
through and say,
But that's still just communication.
right.
I mean, it's basically external communication and internal, like it's basically notice of activation, be warned that you may be needed.
Right.
Like they're not actually doing medical work, check-ins on population. Yeah.
right.
No, go to vegetation.
Like we wouldn't start checking on people realistically until after.
Then food and shelter perhaps, like maybe on day 2 or 1, like if people need to evacuate, is that, if they can?
I think the food and shelter is for, in case we're here and we can't get more.
See, to the evacuations, like that's again, just transportation.
So that would all be logistics, all right.
I think within the communication, we should right now work on that communication, because it's communication rules.
I said, we're focused on the win. Focus on the win. Don't get in the weeds.
Blame it on Noel, Jessica.
Don't get in the weeds.
Blame it on Noel.
I will give you a little tip. Noel doesn't say no, ever, as a rule, in fact. Yeah.
You suggested.
That's right. I always suggest otherwise. I almost never say that.
I think there's just one before storm and after storm.
Alright, we'll move everyone to.
That shelter definitely has to be. That shelter shows that.
So here's the storm still going on. Alright, now we're 1 day out, 2
But the shelter has to be looked on because we have to make sure it's able, it's ready to house people.
This is very close to the rest
So
of
what is
the places
the
that there's lots of access here.
It's not.
Let's go about shelter. Do you think we need to,
Like there's power
But
here.
evacuation shelters, right?
To me, you have to access shelter, make sure, like if it's a generator, the backup generator is working. You can't wait until it happens to come to shelter and it may not be up and running. Because sometimes something can happen with that too, so they do that beforehand. I think it's
So maybe if you could be at least worth to say, even if you're not hauling bodies and hauling generators, at least that these groups have touched base with every one of those people in those different teams to say, this is what this is starting to look like. Are you ready? If you have.
Put it down. Let's say it.
So these people are running at this point, basically, they've at least contacted all the
Public security and fire.
That's what I think is first communication, we start telling everybody, and they start telling the team. That's when the whole logistics is, say, I'm gonna get everybody together, Jesus meetings,
In the way we talked about this.
But also in terms of public safety, we can also add.
Ready to move on, storms coming on, or
Remember, they got that.
the day after church, something's happening. So that we're here, I think communication still number one.
Because if we don't have it, we call that church.
I think logistics,
That's food shelter.
Still-
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but let's put that under food shelter. Public safety, like where are the places that we're gonna
we want logistics. She's suggesting up to 6 hours is what's going on.
Communication should be close.
Throughout the whole time. Let's say the morning after, afternoon,
logistics in the morning.
I mean, one day I can bring this up to them.
but first time.
Maybe one thing to consider is,
Alright guys, so I'm gonna give you guys 5 more minutes, maybe 10 depending on where we're at. And then I'm gonna ask each group to report out. And I'm starting with the win.
Yes, I do. That's what So for instance, logistics conservation, yes, a different time. No, logistics,
priorities to get out black or something like that. It shouldn't have to wear like public safety and medicine communication. Like as soon as these people are starting to run their then the first people they
I agree, we should have more
communication just because everyone, if people are dead, they're not located, but we still need so we have to make sure people are alive and then we can. Well, yes, that's just the whole time. They're basically saying we need to have transportation. That's ongoing. And then immediately it's checked out.
They have records.
And then utilities should be on it.
Utilities go like.
We paid me another
If
location.
she needs a whole, we're all.
It's like actually utilities like days.
No,
No, that's.
after the storm, right after the storm.
No, that's what we're, that's what we're papers. That's not end of That's that would be just.
We also got 150 Italy on there, there's building that building.
Flashlight candles.
It's small. It's the smallest big world in the world. Hey guys, are you ready? Sure. Feel strong. So yes. You can do it. You guys ready? Almost ready?
We'll be ready in about 5 minutes.
That's your 5-minute warning. Well,
8 minutes.
I'll give you 6 minutes. Curious if you have
7 and we're close.
6 and a half.
Good try.
6 and a half. Ready to go.
Communication. Yeah, we didn't put anything specific.
That's what I'm really.
Other
locations that we are.
Yeah, so what's interesting is that emergency response is typically come around. They do, obviously, gigantic records. There's no.
So you have all of this, you know when it starts, you know when the wind, you got the wind wind?
Yes, we have a plan. It's not very specific.
Okay.
So I have it.
Sure, and that's okay. Okay.
One swimming pool.
Okay, cool.
Where everybody gets together.
That's what I was gonna do.
Any other locations? Locations that we haven't utilized?
What is it? Lowest stage is calling fire. And that's calling this
I think it's sometimes like what happens is like, we were lucky with Sandy that the water went right out, but if the water had stood, it's actually very dangerous. That might be number one. They might have I mean, it's just depending what happens. Public safety might be number. It could be an oil spill or
I feel like the.
But public safety, we're thinking of outside public safety, that's the last person we're gonna contact. Everything else has to come with that.
Well, it's not about contacting the city, we're talking about 72 hours before the city can even get here anyway. So your function can't be to call 911 when 911 is not answering the phone. That's not okay. No, I agree with that. Actually, they have a proposed company to help them out. What is that just say? And there's a project on the project list. But they were emergency response. They're very specific. They're really great labs. Up and running, or even trained out, or even selected. So that program is also.
put it not well, it's not for medical.
It's not, no, that should not be anybody's job to arrest anybody, it should not be anybody's job to write. Two people that are in the car. It's not your job to run around and put out fires. I mean, unless it's a matter of life and death, maybe then you might want to consider taking a fire extinguisher. I think you think about it
No,
more
not
in
here.
sexual
The
terms.
existing medical clinic in Hamilton.
Based on your experience, and how do we coordinate?
Right, and then it might not
Right.
get flooded the next day.
Disasters. I
So
believe
they
in
can
one.
only use upstairs.
I believe the only one.
So then
I think that the question always remains with what is the disaster, how bad is it, are you impacted, and is your public safety present? Because during safety, they were, yes. So that is a dynamic question, and that's why you just have to think about it in terms of when are you gonna need it.
Yeah, I mean, basically the way
It's
I
actually
think
only
about
on
this is when
Wednesday,
Oh,
step by step, so if these people are
Yeah,
always
that's the
active,
only thing it is.
first thing you do is get your nose on it. Then you make sure people who are alive are getting food and shelter to protect them. And then we can start to talk about it.
All right, guys, wrap it up. We're done. Awesome, sweet.
So there's gonna be a feasibility and then what are the spaces that are actually gonna.
Just like the myself. All right, are you guys ready? Are you super excited? Sister was at a calm down. All right, we're gonna do a little report out, and at first I was gonna have Wynn go first and get to the where after, but then I do want to do it in that order, but I want to do it one function at a time. Okay? So I'm gonna ask Wynn to stand up, pick the first function, and give your present. Do we have somebody who's speaking? Am I assuming it's Jessica because she's been doing all the classes?
Yes.
So I'll let you explain what you guys came up with, and then we'll start with your first support function.
Okay. Can we put this up there?
Yeah, totally. On the wall, absolutely. Stick things on.
On the wall.
Hell yeah. Let's put it right here. That's
Okay. So we planned it out 3 days, assuming we might know 72 hours before. So that's day 3 before, 2 and 1. Then something, event happens, a storm, let's say, then 1, 2, 3 days out. That's the storm, I tried to make it look scary. So,
That's awesome. It looked very scary to me.
so our first, number 1 thing is communication, and that's throughout.
So that you're saying communication, the win.
So day 3, if we know 3, as soon as we know something was definite,
3 days before.
yeah,
As soon as you
somewhat
somewhat
definite, that's communication. Yes.
So your win, if we were talking about tomorrow's potential surge, your win would be right now. Because we just got the heads up.
Yes, so as soon as it happens.
Alert should go.
Okay.
Pretending we have
And then whatever the communication function plan looks like,
Yes.
it starts now.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the win. Communication. What's the where?
The
We
where?
have a lot of, you go ahead. We have a lot of suggestions.
Excellent. I'm in for suggestions. I would ask you to put your where into primary, secondary, tertiary for me.
Well,
Only because I love to say the word tertiary.
The idea was that we were going to do a feasibility analysis, so there are more than primary, secondary, and tertiary
Excellent.
on lots of them.
Wow.
Awesome. Okay.
For communication, we have IKEA, 676, which is the old PS27.
Oh, PS27.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, we were in parentheses.
351 Bambrook.
You've got IKEA.
IKEA,
You've got
PS 676.
PS 676.
351 Bambrook.
351 Van Brunt.
The new Brown Church.
New what?
Brown Church on Clinton Street.
Brown.
More of that. That's far.
Three. And the church is on Clinton. Okay.
It's set.
South Brooklyn
The other one's
Community High School.
actually.
South Brooklyn Community High School.
Yeah.
Robert, those are not places that were flooded during Sandy.
Well, let's get to that question in a second.
Well, there's-
Let's get this on the wall and let's hash what makes sense in a second. Let's get through it. Let's get through it. Yep.
Coffee Park.
Coffee Park. That's fun. That's gonna be the only way to find FEMA. Coffee Park.
and all,
And the ball field.
and all the ball fields.
No, that's
Ball
Coffee
fields.
Park.
And ball fields. I'm struggling with my hookup.
It's okay.
Ball fields. Okay, so that's communication, that's the where.
Yes.
Can you say that? What does it say?
Communication, we've got IKEA, potential places to hold the communication mecca, whatever it is. IKEA, PS 676, 351 Van Brunt, what is that?
That's my office where we ran a lot of communication this time.
Okay. New Ground Church on Clinton. That's the Baptist church on Clinton. That's what that is. South Brooklyn High, Coffee Park, and the ball fields. Okay, these are good, large hubs. Is that going to make sense? I don't know. We're going to get to that in just a second. What do you want, Karen?
There's a large place that nobody go to.
What was that?
The Red Hook Rec Center.
The Red Hook Rec Center?
We already got that.
Oh, they've got plans. Oh,
Yeah.
Take us out of it.
Karen, you want to
sorry. Stick to your W, all right?
Would it make sense to put communication in a place that is closest to the largest amount of people who exist in Red Hook, i.e. essentially Coffee Park being the central nexus of all of the houses, which is
But that's not
95%.
depending on the event. That's not central.
Or like,
So I think that there will be, I think what you guys are going to find, I just want to put this to bed because I want to get through this information, and this is an important note. What you guys are doing, I'm dying. If I die, don't do mouth to mouth, I have a DNR.
Thanks to the warning.
Nope. Unless it's water.
My arm.
It's the shirt, okay? It's the shirt, I'm telling you. What you guys are going to find as we go through this process is nothing is going to live in one place. Did it live in one place before? No. Nothing is going to make sense for the duration, right? It's not all going to even need to be, in fact, I just wrote the question down and stuck it somewhere. Do we need to staff it? Do we need to staff it? Communications? Absolutely, if you want to hear about anything. Public safety? Maybe not. So let's think about it like that. There's going to be a lot of questions and we don't have to answer all of them right now. Right now, we just want to answer where and when. And we need a lot of options because we don't know what's going to happen, okay? So what was the next? So communication was first. We had a lot of potential places for it. And this communication, the when, I'm just putting ASAP, right? Okay, next function. That's you.
Logistics.
Logistics.
So we put that after communication, we can do it by hour, but if, it should be ASAP, but as soon, when something looks a little bit more definite, we know what's happening, then we can get logistics working.
So once you have a confirmation.
Not a full confirmation, but at least
Warning.
We sort of said at the first level, like everybody in the community knows something's up, maybe. And then as we get a little more clarity, pull the team together. The logistics people to pull the rest of the team together and be like, are you?
so something's happening. It could be a hurricane, it could be a surge, it could be, who knows, a tornado.
Okay.
Information about what's going on from communication.
Right. Okay. So logistics is activated by communication, is what you're saying. That's an important side note.
Yes.
So that's the logistics. So logistics is next. They're saying that we found out there's a possible surge tomorrow, so they just activated their little communication hub. And communication people are busy sending it out. High tech, low tech, everybody's getting the word. And the logistics people sitting at wherever they sit are like, whoop, something's up. So where are they sitting?
Red Hook Initiative.
Red Hook Initiative. Jill will love that. Awesome.
IKEA.
IKEA.
Only doesn't look too happy.
SBIDC. You know I don't know where that is.
On Van Brunt Street.
Is it on Van Brunt? What's the address? Anybody?
Closer to.
It's not.
Doesn't matter.
That's your address.
Doesn't matter.
No, but it's another 3. Unless they have right there.
351 Van Brunt.
No, it's not. She's.
I'm
Oh,
She
okay.
just did it.
Oh, 351 Van Brunt?
Yeah.
Victoria again, 351? Okay. Keep going. And this is something that I think that they can do. And they have a place potentially store some things like generators, not the two I'm buying you for Christmas, the other ones. And they're going to be looking at locations and places to keep that up. We're not thinking basements, we're thinking up, right? So,
You
so
think that they can do
ideally,
that by themselves?
communications, no, I think they definitely need a grown-up up there. ASAP, we start the communications, right? And then logistics gets activated,
Yes.
right? That's where we're at?
Yes.
And we're housing logistics potentially at RHI, potentially at the Red Hook Volunteers, potentially at IKEA, potentially at SBIDC on Van Brunt. And if not there, then at Victoria's on Van Brunt. Or potentially a visitation,
Good.
okay?
Got it.
What happened
Then
to
what?
Mikio?
What?
Yeah, we got to make you.
Dude, where are you? Where are you? You can tell she works in politics because she sat right in the middle. Right in the middle, Karen, I'm on you. All right, what's next?
Okay, so we're doing this throughout.
There's colors right on your side. You know I love them.
Whatever event has happened, the storm.
The event
So
has
it is now the event has passed.
Okay? Good.
Okay, so now we're the first day after the storm. So first thing to happen again is communication. So we've all woken up, trying to gather what's going on and what needs to happen. After that, okay, should I stop right there?
So communication again. But communication is not again, it's ongoing,
So
right?
it's ongoing.
Right?
Okay.
So what's the next win?
So logistics, then the next thing will be public
We're
safety.
assuming once something gets started, once the win has kicked in,
Okay,
then it's just happening.
it's going, okay. So the next thing that needs to happen then is public safety and health.
Okay, so let's talk about public safety and health.
Okay. So it could be, depending on what the event was, if, when, how public safety can be involved, if people have died perhaps, if people are at risk, like how serious it could be. And that's also when health comes into play, just taking care of the most
42 people
serious,
drowned in Hurricane Sandy in this area. 42.
the most serious medical issues that need immediate care. So people who are dead or dying will need immediate care.
I'll tell you, people who are dying. People who are dead.
Well, you still want to
Get them out.
Yeah.
They're older than cities.
It
Okay.
won't be no worse than all the water.
Okay. Okay.
Nothing is no worse than water and garbage.
So you're proposing a combination of health and medical, public safety, life-saving,
life-saving.
immediate,
Yes.
something has just happened.
Something is like, who's alive?
And so now we gotta go do a quick pulse of the whole.
Yes.
So you're saying the next win is a combination of public safety and health and medical, is that true?
Yes, and it's combined just in case public safety cannot get to us, like which was the case.
Boom.
And if they can, wonderful, to combine with the health team.
Okay, so I'm putting health and medical slash public safety. Health and medical slash public safety. Where are they? Where?
All right, for public safety, we got the Mikio, IKEA,
Mikio. IKEA.
Pave,
IKEA's really busy.
Oh my God, I can't.
Big school.
Pave,
Pave?
Let
Academy,
me think about that more.
P-A-V-E?
PNG.
Oh, is that the school I walked past on my way over here?
Yes, right in front.
Pave, okay?
PS 15.
PS 15. Okay,
Right.
all right.
As for health and medical,
Uh-huh,
we have the Mikio,
uh-huh.
basic school,
What?
There's a school that hasn't been built yet.
basic.
Charter school?
Basic money.
Is that a charter school?
No, it's a new
That's the
private,
private
the new elitist school.
This is gonna be terrible, I'll just come
We
out.
have the
What's the name of that school that's not looking at? I'm sorry. so busy.
BASIS.
BASIS.
B-A-S-I-S.
We haven't arrived, we got a elitist.
Joseph Piagallo.
Brace yourself. Next thing you have a Starbucks.
Adamo.
Adamo?
Yes.
Yeah.
We got visitation.
Visitation?
Yeah. We got PS 27.
676.
676.
PS
676.
RHI.
and RHI, because Jill really likes it when we live there for
Oh,
a long time.
and I don't know the proper name for it, but the morphine clinic over there. Methadone clinic. Methadone clinic. On Hamilton Avenue.
The methadone.
A lot of space, too short.
They might be good for a lot of things.
They're a big thing. Aren't they supposed to build one? Yeah, we already built one, but we already have one. Right, even though we're supposed to get another. We already have one and we didn't utilize it and we should have. Yeah, it has medical resources inside.
Yeah, that's the big
All right, so that's what we've got. We've got our public safety and our health and medical are now up and running, and we are now the day after whatever the storm event / very tragic thing that's happened to Red Hook happened. What's next?
The next thing, hopefully day after the storm, we can get started making sure that everyone is alive and well, and start thinking about food and shelter. This depends, however bad the event was, and just at least to make sure people have enough to keep them for at least a few days, and if people need to be removed immediately from where they're at.
Doesn't shelter have to happen pre this
Say it again?
event? Shouldn't shelter happen before the event, like evacuation to shelter?
I think we're talking about a different kind of shelter, so let me jump in if I'm wrong, but if I remember the conversation correctly, there are shelters set up by the city, and then there are those people who don't evacuate. I mean, it's really that. And when they think we're talking about shelter in the 72 hours after an event, we're talking about the people who didn't evacuate but potentially can't also now be in their homes.
If people need to evacuate, we're thinking that is under logistics, transportation, getting people out in those 3 days, whatever, leading up to the event.
Okay. So we're using a lot of the same language back and forth, so it can be confusing. But again, just keep the lens. We're talking about the 72 hours without city support. 72 hours without city support. Okay, because that's what we actually did. We did 72 hours without city support. What did it look like? And that's what we're talking about. Okay? So food and shelter, we're on what day here? Day 1,
We're still
day 2,
on
day
day
3,
one.
day 1?
We're still day one to start.
Okay? Food and shelter, where are we doing that?
All right, food and shelter will be at visitation.
Where?
Visitation.
I'm losing my hearing, I think, in my old age.
Okay, good.
I'm sorry.
What do you call it? Mikio Center?
The Mikio? Okay?
The rec center.
And the rec center? Is that different than
Red
the
Hook Recreation.
Red Hook Recreation?
That's part of the whole.
That's too far, right?
Oh, okay. Okay.
The Brooklyn Motor Inn.
Oh, yeah, outside the front. Brooklyn and classy, too.
So now you're telling that you've been there.
I'm just saying.
She had Brooklyn.
I had a couple hours to kill. They charged by the hour, told me it was at Brooklyn Motor Inn.
The Red Hook Holiday Inn.
Red Hook Holiday Inn.
Next door.
I don't know anything about that. Holiday Inn.
PS15, PS676, AK 27, AK alcohols.
676.
Some of the,
PS152.
142.
Yeah. South Brooklyn High School. Pave Academy.
Okay.
And when they're not looking, we do basketball.
The Ritzy High
Justice
Award?
Center.
Just so they're not looking, exactly.
You guys are saying these are the options and you'll,
Yeah.
the one to be
Yes.
chosen at some point, right?
I promise, nobody is committing RHI in all these places all the time.
and that there are
Oh, you guys are gonna do
multiple
everything?
We're
That's
just
why I put my house up there.
chucking it on the wall and seeing what sticks.
Well, and that there are multiple functions here. I mean, so visitation did cold food and bulk distribution, and this could be hot food, shelters, different kinds of shelters. So we want to understand what the functions are for each building as it relates to multiple events, right? And then we could, in theory, have a food and shelter committee that would be like, oh, these are the 3 buildings we need to make operational for a snowstorm, or a fire, or something.
And I'm putting that in the first 24 hours after. Is that what we're talking about? The first 24 hours after?
Yes.
That was our win?
Yeah, like food and shelter is after lunchtime.
After lunch. Very, very not hungry. So the first noon, you all know where to go. All right, so where do we go from there? We got food and shelter, is that all of our functions? Because I don't see utilities listed anywhere.
Comment?
Oh, sorry, carry on. Yes, Miss Karen Broughton.
All right, don't kill me, I got aware of food and shelter, Calvary Baptist Church. That they did a lot of food last year.
Do you want to switch tables?
Don't throw the
I'm just
pen
saying.
flying.
Okay,
Small.
okay,
They sound very good.
all right, the next function.
So the last function we have is utilities starting on, let's say, the second day after the event, just because we have a lot going on day one, but also thinking just an assessment of really what was damaged, how long it'll take, and all that's working with, and utilities we're thinking not like generators, flashlights, we're thinking Con Ed, gas, like
Sure.
that type of utility. So
Because logistics is already operated and they have the flash
yes,
generator.
yes.
Right?
So that we're not talking about emergency power, but like if all of Red Hook's out of power, and Con Ed hasn't been able to turn on after a day, you know, what's going on?
Every time you say that, I want to sing. Okay, awesome. So that's our win. So we're day 1, day 2, we're into day 2 at this point.
Yes.
We've got flashlights and generators have been distributed from our lovely logistics in Jovan. And we are now looking at our utilities. Where are we managing utilities from?
PS 676
Okay,
RHI
sure.
Public School 142. Yeah, she's way outside the flood zone. She's huge.
Okay, is that all you got for that?
I would add for the Port Authority building.
Yeah, Port Authority
Because they
building.
have their own cold storage, dedicated line, so on
And
it is up, they're up.
exactly. And if there's a ship docked in the port.
Alright,
Which
just plug in.
Cruise terminals.
Cruise
The
terminal.
cruise terminal? The Port Authority building, that's cruise terminal?
Yeah.
What about the big solar array that just went in over at the Fancy Farm?
It's not that big of a solar array. And this is for communications with the people who have power now.
I got water on my nose. That's awesome. Okay. And it looks big to me.
Yeah.
Just putting that out there.
Perception.
Yeah.
How does the where of the utilities work? Are we assuming that those places are shunting power?
I don't know.
Like,
Let's have that
what is the
conversation.
where of utilities?
So these are all of our, so these are the questions. Let's ask some questions because some of this stuff doesn't make any sense, right?
So utilities, last time we had an electrician that volunteered that went house to house. And then we had 2 conference calls at the first stage with Con Ed that kind of got somewhere, but you know, we brought some local officials in on the issue, and that's the only process I was part of with utilities. I chased a couple of Con Ed trucks around the neighborhood though.
What we heard
Con Ed was
from
afraid to come through this neighborhood. I saw that truck being chased by a lot.
what we heard from you guys, and what I think we were assuming is that this was about coordinating with external issues. So this is coordinating with people who've got power or understand power. So it doesn't need to be, and we're not talking about alternative generators, alternative charging stations or whatever. We're talking about like, where did the 6 people go who we as a community have entrusted with like negotiating
Right, being the liaisons to
with
Con Ed.
Con Ed and then getting info out. So we were thinking of small places, easy meeting places and places that had power, so that they could use their cell phones, use their computers, make phone calls, or have a Con Ed command station show up and be like, we're here. So it is not a,
But I thought the last time we talked about this, we were imagining that all the groups are somehow closely located, each of the 6 functions, physically.
what my understanding of that was that we were gonna have there was a communications committee that had everybody together, but I wasn't at the last meeting.
That's actually true on both parts. You're all right. I'm running for government also.
I'm not.
Yeah, it's true. Maybe, God bless you for this. So you're both right, and I'll tell you why. There is a communications group that is a project. It is on our project list, which I'm going to keep pointing back at, that is headed up by Rob Smith, who is also part of the communications group at the South Brooklyn High School. Murph is not here, I'm looking for him like he's going to magically appear. There's a communications group happening in Red Hook outside of this space. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Can you say it loud?
What are you talking about?
Oh, you're awesome.
Are you talking about the volunteer working group? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
That's my parents.
Yes.
Yeah, so there is a working group of volunteers that are working on communication.
There, that's it. That's the thing. So they're doing that communications planning, like the planning around how it gets communicated, when it gets communicated, what they're going to do. They are part of this group. Rob Smith is actually part of this planning group. He can't be here tonight. And they will take this information and they will evolve that into what is their plan or part of.
That's one thing I would say is that in my mind, I'm not aware of any of these champions or these people actually doing any of this work.
As of yet, I am not either.
Okay, good.
I am not
You're
either.
saying this is what the communication work group.
What I'm saying is I've been in contact with all the champions, and this is what they've agreed to do, and then it's not moved forward yet at all as far as I know.
Okay.
That's what I'm committing to this group.
And that should be our job, to get them tomorrow.
Who are the champions?
They're listed on the project list. I'm super glad you wanted to know. I printed those up and circulated that. Do you have a printed copy by any chance? So there's a printed list, but also again on the EMP website, the /Red Hook. The project list is there, but I'll email it to you, Mama. I'll email it to you. Okay, so I want to go back to this list that we made because this is something that we just did. We basically made a little mini plan. Okay, I'm going to call this a mini plan. It's communication. I'm keeping you guys 15 minutes on purpose because we started 15 minutes late and because I really want to do this. I never do it. So I know that it's 7:30, so I'm going to ask you to flex with me.
You've been changing everything lately.
I'm a cheat.
Meetings.
I come on sweet and nice in the beginning and then it's all hell. Oh, you know. Communication starts first. ASAP, right? We just found out from the National Weather Service that we are in flood surge warning, correct? So we start our communications ASAP. That happens right now. And because communications is kicked in, whatever their plan is, do we have to staff that?
Yes.
Yes? Right? We have to staff that. It seems like a dumb question, but you'll follow me for just a second. So then logistics kicks in because they get a notification from the staff, right? A physical person who writes something up, emails something out, sends it out on paper, puts out flyers quickly, not in 3 days, but quickly, and logistics gets activated. And logistics is, right now I want to say in my head, Red Hook Volunteers, because if I say RHI, I think Tony's head is amazing. So Red Hook Volunteers, Jovan gets a phone call probably, and says, hey dude, we just got this heads up. Where are the generators? Where are the flashlights? Where are they? And he knows because he's on top of his stuff. So does logistics have to be staffed?
Yes.
Are you with me so far? Awesome. Health and medical gets a heads up. We're having a thing. There's a surge. It's coming. But they don't do anything yet because what do they have to do? Right now they have nothing to do. Is that true? I am looking at Matt. Is it staffed?
Yeah.
When you say staffed, you mean that there is a warm body somewhere who's going to answer the call?
That's
And the answer-
exactly what I
Okay,
did.
so the answer is definitely yes.
So here we have that. So health and medical is also staffed, right? Yes. Right? That's a body. That's a person, correct? Okay. Is public safety staffed?
Yes.
No.
Why not?
Well, not by us.
Why not?
No, some of the things we've talked about for public safety though is like traffic control in the first 24 to 72. It's communications with those people outside. So it's not public safety insofar as we're first responders, but it is managing the operations of our community. It is checking in, at least this is how I've understood it, that it is checking in with people that they're feeling safe and providing a safe space.
It's not communications because those aren't warm bodies in the street moving things forward, but it could be logistics. It sounds to me like logistics. That doesn't sound like I don't know what I'm trying not to give you things that I think, because I think you guys are coming to these conclusions on your own. But in my mind, I don't know that we need a staffed public safety person.
Someone needs to call the 76.
Tony asked the best question all night. He's looking at the public safety and he goes, "You don't want me to put out a fire, do you?" I mean, no. I mean, unless it's in your house and you happen to have a fire extinguisher, no.
But you should be like, I think communications should be in touch with public safety logistics. Call the 76, hey, can you guys get guys to help with this over here?
For the Red Hook Raiders.
So what you're saying is you're calling somebody who is not a Red Hook resident.
Yes, we're calling
So
public
are we staffing public
No.
safety or not?
No. It's gonna cover, someone else is gonna cover it?
I think what we've decided is that, what did I call it? Public safety?
I think they would actually call us for yeah.
Because I think public safety, fire, security, law enforcement, motor vehicle accidents, traffic safety, things of that nature, I think that that falls into a realm that is beyond the scope of a resident in this community.
It also becomes dangerous to try and perform something like that. It's hitting above your weight.
And I'll tell you the other risk that you run, just from a different lens. If you have a person who is assigned to health and medical, and it's Matt, and the MRC miraculously shows up, they will next time. We're gonna call David.
We want to see.
And the MRC shows up, they can go to Matt and they can have a handoff and a transition, and that makes sense, and there's no issue there. That makes sense. When the police department shows up, they don't want to go talk to Rob in the street to hear how he's been directing traffic for the last 2 hours.
They didn't want to come, okay? They didn't want to come with Sandy. There was a gas leak, and they said, no, that's an A zone, we're not coming in.
Right. There are, yes, it's such a longer conversation, but you're absolutely right. They're not coming, that's why we're planning for 72 hours. But we don't need somebody on the street directing traffic as a public safety person. We've got logistics people for that. We've got volunteers for that. We've got y'all. Okay? Okay? So that's how that works. Yes? Okay. Just keep going.
Not unless we get a solar flare, then everything goes down, the grid, everything.
If there is an EMP, if there is an electromagnetic
No,
pulse,
it's over.
all this is out the window. It's true. While we're still watching. Food and shelter.
We can put Bloomberg's.
The storm has come, the surge has hit, it's gone away, we're talking food and shelter. Do we need to staff that?
Yes.
Thank you. There's a lot of people, frankly. We do, and we need to staff it, and it would probably be in multiple locations,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Some of these other things, we're getting into locations in a second, but I really want to make this point. Utilities, do we need to staff that?
I would say at the beginning, no. But if it's a Sandy thing, at least one body to coordinate back and forth with Con Ed, maybe give them an extent of what's happening. I don't know if that's communications or, but just to help funnel all the needs through and get it to the right utility companies. I don't know what that is though.
Does everybody agree? Yes with the liaison, or you want, do we have other,
No, I was just thinking about something else, in terms
your
of.
vacation? Where are you, man?
I wish. In terms of like the schools, get to schools, how fast can these people get to the schools? So a lot of these janitors and maintenance people do not live in Red.
Right.
And I can't see them going, I don't live over there, I'm not getting out of there, but, you know.
But if we're using those as, in this facility, wouldn't we at some point, well, we have Ms. Madison on the thing, wouldn't we at some point, someone be given a key in case
That's what I'm
there's an
saying,
emergency? It's gonna have to be somebody in the neighborhood.
In terms of who can we go to, who they can like sign off here,
Yeah.
these keys will belong to you because somebody gotta open up these buildings. Yeah.
The shelter services can't open up here too, because they have a program, the Beacon program.
All right, so we got answers. You know. As long as we have people to open up these places, we're okay.
Let's talk about these wares for just a quick second. In the next 5 minutes that we're here, and I will let you go a quarter after, I promise, or quarter till, I'm sorry. Just teasing. Let's talk about these real quick. I would like to just get a yes or no, was it flooded? I don't care how many floors of it were flooded, I just want a yes or no, was it flooded? IKEA,
No.
PS 676,
No.
Victoria's Place,
No.
no. New Brown Church, the Baptist church.
No.
South Brooklyn High.
Yes.
It was out for 24 hours.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
that was the same for IKEA as well.
IKEA was out.
Okay, if it flooded at all, the answer is yes. Coffee Park.
Yes.
We're not crossing them off the list, we just want to know, right?
Yes.
Ball fields.
So just to be clear, there are public communications events and then there are external communications
Yes.
spaces, and that's why we have sheltered and large scale.
And in our timeline of the event as it unfolds, something that we can use 3 days before a storm is different than something we may have to use the day after the storm, right? So we don't have to be married to any one location, and in fact, we may not be able to depending on the event. But for right now, let's just talk about what it looks like. RHI,
No.
IKEA, we know they did. SBIBC on Van Brunt,
Yes.
flooded.
Everything almost.
Victoria, 351 Van Brunt, is that still Victoria's house? It is.
Yes.
Okay, and it did not flood. Is there a house or her office?
No, it's her office.
Thank you. That was a little creepy for a second. I thought that was awful generous though. Visitation Church. Okay, Mikio.
No.
Part of it.
Hmm?
Well,
Any part of it. Irrelevant. Did it flood? Yes or no?
Yes.
Excellent.
Mikio,
Mikio.
no, not Mikio, she's saying visitation.
Now I'm talking about visitation. Mikio.
No.
No.
IKEA, we know it did pave.
No.
Well, the new pay now.
Pete,
No, it did flood. That was-
if it flooded in the location where it currently lives,
It was there.
it was there.
No, paved it.
No.
Did or didn't?
Yes, it did. They had to move to the Vicky. They had moved here.
No, they did
We're talking about
Not
the
Vicky.
current location.
Right here.
The new location.
The current location.
No, that location is the new one.
No, it didn't flood. PS 15.
Yes.
Thank you.
They are spending the entire summer storm fitting it.
And I'm hoping that that pays off, actually, because I think that's probably the better bet for a lot of this stuff. Mickey, we already talked about basis.
We don't know.
Did
But it's
the
a
footprint
different-
Actually,
Yes.
Yes.
But they're
Yes.
bumping it up.
They're putting it up.
They're wet proofing the first floor.
Adoba did. Remember that visitation did. 676 did not. RHI did not. Visitation Mikio Red Hook Rec did. That's cool.
No.
No, the rec, the rec flooded. No, it's all power.
Just about.
They didn't flood.
They didn't flood.
They didn't flood.
No.
They didn't
So
flood. They had no power.
So their entire basement filled up with water, but the first floor did. Yeah. Exactly, the entire basement filled up with water. but the
Did or
first floor
didn't?
It flooded.
Did.
It did.
Okay. Red Hook Rec flood. Brooklyn Motor Inn. I wasn't there that day.
They didn't.
I think not.
No.
They were far out of the zone.
The Holiday Inn.
I don't think so.
You don't frequent?
Where's the railroad company?
It's on. It's where the tunnel comes up.
Firehouse is? The firehouse is the same side.
Battery tunnel.
Yeah.
It's
That was a Comfort Inn.
No, there's
Yeah,
two. There's two.
between those basketball courts and the jalopy.
No, that's,
Isn't that the Brooklyn Motor Inn?
that's
No,
not,
I know
and
it's
there's Holiday Inn,
Oh, you're asking.
which is one block over.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause I'm like, that's the Comfort Inn right there on Sebring, behind the Sebring, whatever, that is my
Did it flood? All I care about is if it flooded or not.
I don't know.
We don't know.
Yes.
Okay, we don't know. I'm gonna put a question mark. PS 15, we know. 17, 142, where's that?
No, that's a Brooklyn Bridge. On Henry Street.
Okay. South Brooklyn High School, we already talked about. Calvary Church?
No.
No. Pave?
No.
Did not flood. All right, and I think we covered all the rest of it. Oh, the Port Authority building.
Oh, it's not that Port Authority.
The ship,
They saw it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
paper, I don't want to take a paper.
All right. Last run. Come up with this list, I'm gonna type it up, I'm gonna print it up, email it to you guys, because we need to have this in our brains the next time we come together, okay? And this is our beginning plan. I don't know if you guys are seeing it come together or not, but we have our logistics, how it gets started. We're starting to build the next piece that we need, which is our action plan, right? Our action plan is here. We're starting it. We got notification from the National Weather Service. We start our communications. The communications triggers our logistics. Logistics sends their information out. Communication sends their information out. And it gets everybody ready. Health and medical, public safety, utilities, our food and shelter. They're not doing anything, but they're getting ready. We have the storm, we have an event, and then these people show up in their appropriate locations and begin managing their piece. That's where we're at right now. We've done a lot of work tonight. It feels like we're not complete because we're still in the mix of it, but we're getting there. Are you guys with me?
Yes.
Great work tonight, Judy. Thanks.
May 29th.
When is the next meeting?